So very, very simple but provocative question. Let's assume we build a complete network of automated transportation on its own guideway and completely skip the current road system and build a completely new road system with paths where you can go from anywhere to anywhere. And for example, let's say an average speed of 120 kilometers an hour would basically you'll be able to compete with airplanes and definitely high-speed trains, etc., from any point to any point, assuming that nobody has more than, let's say, 500 meters to the nearest station. Give an example from Östersund to somewhere just near Östersund, going down to Åhus in southern Sweden, for example, or similar trips like that. It could also be a local system that you have, like here in Gävle. You go from here where we are now downtown to the train station, all in the same system. Do you see that as a possibility? I'm putting it a bit to the extreme here. I'm kind of curious what you think about this. And because we have Trafikverket here, I can't avoid having Trafikverket answer that question and say what you think. Thank you.
Actually, this is not a provocative question for me, but a kind of a description of a vision that we work towards. That this is good to have that vision, but as the technology development is as today, I don't see it's coming. We don't have that system in place. It might be developed in future, but I'm talking about many years from now. But of course, everybody is working towards facilitating more faster, more environmental friendly, and also other types of qualities that we have actually has disappeared in the system because of too many cars in our cities. Many people want to reshape it, to bring it back. This is something that we see it as a vision, yes.
See it as a vision, because in the town you can fix it, but you can't fix it in the other places. I live outside the town, I have lived outside the town, and there you can't make the vision for you, where you can go everywhere. And I believe that there will always be a possibility to use your own car. But you must make the cities so you can use other things to travel with. Because the towns, you must, you showed it here, you must make people talk, going, walking in the streets. You must have shops where you can go, you can play in the parks and so on. So I think in places where you have several people live, you can fix it, and I think it's good. But you must give the possibility to take you there by your own car. I think so.
I think it's a really interesting vision that you have, and it's of course it's not impossible, because many things that we have invited was impossible before, and the history learned that nothing actually is impossible. One thing that actually is impossible in this case is 120 kilometers per hour in the cities, because the curves are too narrow, so people will just be smashed through the windows if you're in the car if you go 120. I meant to be clear, I meant intra-city transportation. Intra-city, then it's not a problem at all. And then 120 is really slow. Why not go further? But not faster than 280, because if you go faster than 280, then you have to double the energy you need to lower the speed with 10 kilometers per hour. So that's not so energy efficient to go faster, actually.
Okay. Thank you. I kind of expected this kind of answer, so I prepared for the next question. So let's assume, okay, forget about intra-city, let's go only citywide. There was a study made in Ithaca, New York in 2008, where they, one of the architects, a couple of the architects together with the city manager, put up a proposal. It wasn't that serious, it was just kind of a thought that you didn't ban cars in the city, but you needed a pass, and you had to pay quite a hefty fee to get into the city, unless you were a business or something, you need to deliver food or whatever. And the idea was to have, in their case, 5 different arrivals with parking spots, and you came to the parking spot and you got into a pod and you did whatever you needed to in downtown, just leisure, or you wanted to do shopping, or whatever you wanted to do. So you had this functionality. It reminded me a little about the 18th century city planning, actually, to some extent, like Karlsruhe, for example. So let's go that. So it's still visionary, but only citywide. Do you think it would be possible to cut off, let's say, 80 to 90% of city traffic and replace it with a ubiquitous system inside the city?
Again, everything is possible, but the thing is that what kind of city we would like to have in the future. This is also a matter of a democratic question. You need people to accept such a system. I don't see it's coming, at least in Sweden. I don't see it like that. That it is like you can use space if you pay for it very much money, or if you drive your car. We have tested it in Sweden, actually in Stockholm. We have congestion charging, for instance. When congestion charging, when it is congestion, when it is not enough capacity, usually what happens is that you have to put out something to make more space for some people. And those people who have that space, actually, they are usually those people who have money to pay for it. And it is one of the ideas that it also cause some segregation. We have people outside the city and we have people inside the city. Attractive places for people with money and the rest for the rest. This is not working like that. We need to have an attractive system which can offer affordable mobility for everyone. I'm not talking about only people outside the city, but also I'm talking about genders. Men, women, children, adults, the people with disabilities, the elderly people. Everybody should have access to the system. They should be able to afford it, to pay for it, and they should use it, not only some people. Important.
Why would you pay to go into the city? Why don't you pay for go out from the city? That's one question. I think that if we must work so we can turn around in the city, but not using a car. And if you say that most people who are driving cars in Stockholm, for instance, today, is the people who live in Stockholm. And even with this capacity we have today, they don't really have to do it. They must not do it. But the people who are outside on the countryside, they must come into the town. So I think the big you must work with the people who live outside the countryside, so they can get transportation into the cities for very cheap money, and then use the transportation in the city. So I think it's very hard to say that you shall pay to come into the city. I think turn it around. You will pay for come outside the city.
It's a really interesting question. I'm not sure that payment or a fee or anything is the answer to the how to say it. utmaning, the challenges we have. One really interesting idea would be that we have parking lots outside the city center for, how to say, inpendling. To commute in the city, and then you pay to park your car there, and then you can use the parking ticket for the public transport, for example. That's one way to start this, to implement your question really easy, and then you can travel for as long as your ticket is valid, your parking ticket is valid. If you pay for 12 hours, then you can travel around the city center for 12 hours, for example, and that's really easy to make. We can do that tomorrow. Well, we can start it tomorrow, but to pay to come inside the city, I agree with you. Maybe that's not the best solution, to come in, to pay to go inside the city, because that will really increase the boundaries between people, and that's not really what we need in days like this.
Just want to clarify, 99% of people going to city, they actually pay today to go into the city. It's called parking fees. So I'm just moving the parking fee outside. That's the only difference. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. However, you actually made a comment that was kind of my point to all this, and I'm keeping this provocative. And that is, guess how many people, you said something like, the people must want what you offer. Yeah. Now, it's a problem with that statement. I understand, and this makes sense to some extent, but sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. Let's say you just invented the toothbrush. So how can people ask for something they don't realize it's a really good thing? I participated in a very strange meeting in my life once, and I will never forget this. I was invited, this is 1988. Magnus, where are you? I think you were part of this. I was invited to the Swedish Post, as a post office, and the strategy department to discuss about using technology for printing emails. It's no joke. This is no joke. So they said, we had a general discussion, and I said, email. Why do you want to print them? Well, we have this idea to buy this huge $100 million machine that is connected to the email system, because they want to keep the email business. So we connected to this the email machine, so whatever, as soon as I send an email to someone, this thing would actually print it, and there would be a post guy, who's going to deliver the email as a paper. And I thought they were joking. They were not. They never bought or built this machine, but there was a very serious discussion about it until they realized it's stupid, because you're just going to read it on the screen, and sometimes, maybe once out of 10 times, you're actually going to print it yourself on your own printer. That's another example. So my point here is, I'm going to just comment one more example. There were 17 different yards in Manchester, Liverpool area in the mid-1800s. They all made really good sailboats for shipping between the continent, European continent, United States, all over the world, basically. Really good sailboats. However, there was one of them that came up with this idea, why not put a propeller on one of these and make a smaller one, but it's faster, and we put one of these steam engines in it. So there was an 18th company who did this. The other 17 kept doing their sailboats, etc. Guess what happened, who survived? All 17 went bust, all 17. And then they formed small companies who made this with this propeller thing and the steam engine. And they were way more successful. So my point to this is that maybe we don't know the best system yet. Maybe we don't know how it's going to look in the future. Maybe there will be an ubiquitous, basically one single system that covers both intercity, even international and local needs. Could be, very well could be actually. I don't fold that for that's definitely possible and doable. So my point here, my last comment on this, and this is something I'd like to comment on. In the United States, President Kennedy made a statement he said the following: we're going to, I think it was 1962, 63, I'm not American, I'm not exactly sure about that. If somebody could wake up Ron, maybe he can answer that, push him, he's actually falling asleep over there. I don't blame him, he has a hard day here. So anyway, so somewhere there was a statement that we should actually build, they should build something, a rocket to put men on the moon. That was a challenge. And what they did, they basically did a huge procurement. So there was a big pile of money available, but it wasn't paid to anyone. No, it wasn't paid out. They had to give away their best shot. And there are many, many, many companies who made the best shots. And there were eventually 2 selected. And one had a 2-stage rocket and one had a 3-stage rocket. And the 3-stage actually won. So my point here is that, should we do that too? Shouldn't we, what's the risk? We're just asking the entire world, this room, outside here in Sweden, the world, give us your best shot, and we guarantee there's going to be big, big load of money over there. We don't need to pay anything. Nothing. At least a little, maybe peanuts, but nothing. And give the challenge, give us your best shot. And I think that's time to do that now, because what this conference has proven, and some of the latest one before, and because of what you said, Hamid, and what I heard from you and from all the speakers here, the technology is ripe, the willing is ripe, the environment, I don't need to say much more than IPCC in the latest report this week. There's so many of, say, traffic lights going red, yellow, green. Many of those are in red right now when it comes to our transportation system. We really have to do something. I'd like you guys to comment on that idea. Please go ahead.
Well, I like the idea very much. We work actively with what is called what do we call it? It's innovation procurement. That we do not describe what we want. We only describe what qualities we would like to see. This is one way of doing it. But believe me, this is not like that you go and people do that really. It has to be very much more specified what exactly you need so I can calculate how much would it cost you. That's a challenge we have as society. But the idea that you're discussing, this is very good. This is what you are saying, depending on how we formulate a question and what we focus on, what happens is depending on how you formulate the question, it will be different focus. For instance, if we focus only on even more but this time automated, you can listen to music and YouTube and this kind of stuff when you are in the queue. So we will solve that problem. But this is not the problem. This is the problem how to solve the system, the needs that people have in their daily life. When it comes to human, I fully agree with you. We are not human. They are irrational. They are not thinking like that. What is good? Most of the people know in Stockholm, for instance, that I really don't need a car if I live in the middle of city. But they have a car. Do you know why? One reason I know that people once in every month, they need to go to a recycle place, recycle station to recycle their fire pan. Nobody takes a taxi, pays 600 krona to get to a place to live. What I try to say is that we need different ideas to put together to make it happen, to make life easier for people to choose, to give them a reason to choose more attractive solutions. So we cannot just push it because we have now automated buses or we have automated Volvo cars. Everybody should have one. We need the technique, how to use the technique to meet the challenges transportation is meeting every single day.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. Well, and that's was the problem I talked about here. If we look at these people, there are no politicians here, and they. 6 or 7, actually. Yes, 6 or 7, but we have we have 250 communities in Sweden, and. That's a big problem for me, so I'm a politician myself. The system, they are there. The people are there. Fix it.
Yes, I also love the idea, and one of the reasons Järfälla municipality founded Barkarby Science was that to help to make those ideas come up to the surface, so we can see them and we can try them in real life. And that's one of the reasons we start with the podcast now on Sunday. And it's really good, and we don't know what will be the next step yet, but the door is always open. And people are always free to contact and say that, hey, we have this great idea. Where can we try it? Where can we implement it?
Thank you. Okay.
That's a little problem, because if we always waiting on the best step, we will wait all our lives.
Okay, so everyone, I see people starting going, because this is actually the end of the conference. So, oh, you woke up, Ron, great. Could you come here? Anna, is she still here or has she left? She's left, okay. Anyway, so I just want to say from my side, and Ron, come please. From my side, I'm very, very grateful for having you all here. People from the UIDC, the students, very important for the future. All the people from the cities and engineers, planners, or whatever role you had. Special thanks to the staff, and special thanks to Johan and Leif, who done all the filming, and the staff here. I think it's been a really, really good conference. I would like to say Ron to say the last words. Thank you.
Well, I want to especially thank the students who've come here from far and wide, and I look forward to seeing you again, and I really encourage you to bring this back to your peers across the board and have a chance to be a part of this incredible program that is suddenly, I say, is just about to really come of age. And we're going to see some dramatic changes. Just like I showed you a little while ago, the change in camera use, we're going to see the change in transportation use, and people will wonder what those funny things were that we used to drive around in, as we find a real good way to go forward. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Christer. Good night. Good day. Good dog, a dog. Hey, do.